Chapter 8. The Mercenaries' Sacrifice. The night hung low, shrouding the wilderness in the stench of blood and death. Ruins stood in the darkness like silent tombstones. Alya stood atop the hill, fingers tightly gripping the hilt of her sword. Her heart pounded wildly as echoes of the recent battle still lingered in her ears. The fleeting apparition of the Nether Phantom Dragon had once sent the black-armored legion into momentary retreat. But the fear had only stalled them for an instant. They won't give up so easily. Leaning against a massive boulder, Vivian's golden eyes flickered coldly in the dim firelight. Night Owl knows exactly what your existence means, Alya. Alya's fingertips trembled slightly. She knew. Her identity had been fully exposed. The black-armored legion would stop at nothing to capture her. But where were the mercenaries who had once fought by her side? A sudden rush of hurried footsteps shattered the brief silence. Carl unsheathed his sword in an instant, his gaze sharp as a predator's. In the distance, along the mountain path, torches flickered in the night, accompanied by the chilling neighs of war horses. The black-armored legion's banners loomed under the starless sky. Damn it! They're already here! Carl cursed under his breath, gripping his sword tightly, muscles coiled for battle. Vivian smirked. If Night Owl himself is making a move, it means they are determined to take Alya back this time. Alya's throat tightened. She was no longer just a fugitive. Her very presence had become the spark of an impending catastrophe. And then, beyond the encroaching forces of the black-armored legion, a distant war horn rang through the air, the mercenary corps. Amidst the flames, the mercenary banners soared high in the wind. Clad in armor, the mercenaries charged forward on horseback, fearless against the Empire's elite cavalry. Their numbers were few, yet the sheer intensity of their battle cries sent shivers through the night. Why are they here? Alya stared in shock as the battlefield unfolded before her. A complex storm of emotions surged within. She had thought her fate had long diverged from the mercenaries. Yet here they were, willingly stepping into a fight that could mean their end. For her. The black-armored legion surged like an unrelenting tide. The mercenaries formed a battle formation, standing their ground with nothing but flesh and steel against the Empire's finest warriors. Swords clashed against armor, firelight reflecting off bloodied blades as the wilderness turned into a war zone. Carl didn't hesitate for a second. He leaped into battle, fighting alongside the mercenaries. His sword gleamed with deadly precision, each swing cutting down an enemy, but the warriors of the black-armored legion were far from ordinary. The ominous energy coursing through their bodies made them stronger, faster, inhuman. Alya's pulse pounded in her ears. She could not stay idle any longer. Her soul energy surged, and deep within her, the Nether Phantom Dragon stirred. A cold, blue flame flickered in her eyes. "If they want me," she growled, stepping forward, "then come and get me." The moment her gaze met those of the enemy soldiers, their expressions twisted in terror. The power of the undead royalty. "She's awakening!" The battlefield turned into a slaughterhouse. The mercenaries were vastly outnumbered, yet they fought with unyielding resolve. Once, they had battled only for coin, but now, they stood their ground without hesitation, placing their very lives between Alya and the enemy. A mercenary warrior took the brunt of an enemy lance meant for Alya. Blood poured from his chest, yet he gritted his teeth, and with his last strength, dragged his attacker down with him into the abyss of death. An archer loosed his final arrow, before a cavalryman's blade cut him down. Alya's chest tightened painfully with each loss. Every swing of her sword was met with the dying screams of those who had once been her comrades. A flash of silver steel. A blade slashed through the battlefield. Carl barely managed to deflect the incoming strike, but a battle axe carved through his shoulder. Blood seeped into his armor, staining the ground beneath him. "Carl!" Alya's voice rang out as she dashed toward him, cutting down the enemy at his side. Carl clenched his jaw, his breaths ragged. Don't get distracted. Alya, you have to survive! The black-armored legion continued their relentless advance. The mercenaries were dwindling, their ranks falling one by one. Vivian summoned her spirit beast, using illusions to momentarily hinder the enemy's movements. It bought them time to escape. But Alya could no longer look away. She had hesitated long enough. If she did not grow stronger, if she did not fight for herself, more would die because of her. She inhaled sharply, pushing down the guilt, steeling her resolve. Gripping Carl's arm, she pulled him to his feet. With Vivian at their side, they broke through the encirclement. Yet behind them, the battlefield still burned, and the war horn of the mercenaries still echoed in the wind. Darkness veiled the wilderness, flames of war raging as the scent of blood and scorched earth thickened the air. The mercenaries had formed a tight defensive circle, resisting the relentless assault of the black-armored legion. They knew the odds were against them, yet not one of them wavered. They stood their ground, fighting desperately to buy Alya, Carl, and Vivian a chance to escape. At the heart of the battle stood Victor, the mercenary leader, a towering, battle-scarred man, wielding a massive war axe. With a ferocious roar, he cleaved through an enemy soldier, his dented and bloodied armor barely holding together. He stood tall despite his wounds, an unshakable fortress amidst the chaos. "They must not break through," Victor bellowed, his voice thunderous with unyielding battle spirit. "Hold the line." The black-armored legion struck like a storm, their relentless offense forcing the mercenaries back. One by one, warriors fell. Spears pierced through chests, blades severed limbs, blood pooling into the dirt until the battlefield was dyed crimson. A young mercenary, Sean, gripped his curved blade with trembling hands, fighting desperately until the very end. A lance impaled him through the chest, yet even as life drained from his body, his gaze remained locked on the path where Alya was escaping. Until his final breath, he never looked away. Alya's heart twisted in agony. She watched, helpless, as the comrades who had once fought beside her fell one after another, giving their lives for her sake. And she could do nothing to stop it. Her nails dug into her palms, her entire being trembling. The Nether Phantom Dragon within her stirred, violently, fueled by rage, grief, and guilt. She wanted to go back. She had to fight. "Alya, don't be reckless." Carl seized her arm, his grip firm and resolute. His gaze burned with equal parts anger and desperation. "They're fighting to the death so we can survive. If you go back now, all their sacrifices will be for nothing." Alya clenched her teeth, tears brimming in her eyes as she struggled against the unbearable truth. But she knew Carl was right. The mercenaries had made their choice. And she had to ensure their deaths were not in vain. The battle raged on, but beyond the carnage, a lone figure approached, a towering shadow clad in pitch-black armor. Silver hair drifted in the night wind, and crimson eyes, sharp as an eye. Eagles observed the battlefield with quiet amusement. A cold smirk curled at the corner of his lips, as though everything was unfolding exactly as he had foreseen. Night Owl, commander of the Black-Armored Legion, had finally arrived. Lifting, a single hand, a surge of overwhelming soul energy rippled through the air. The temperature plummeted instantly. Soldiers instinctively backed away, as if sensing the arrival of an impending calamity. Enough. Night Owl's voice was cold, a whisper of death itself. The game ends here. His gaze locked onto Alya. Then, in an instant, he vanished. A howl of wind. Before anyone could react, Night Owl reappeared, his blade already descending upon Alya in a deadly arc. The air cracked with the force of his strike. Carl lunged forward, sword raised in a desperate block. The clash of steel was deafening. The impact sent him hurtling backward, crashing violently into a withered tree. Blood spurted from his mouth as he slumped to the ground. "Carl!" Alya's scream tore through the battlefield, her pupils dilating in horror. Carl gritted his teeth, trying to push himself up. But Night Owl gave him no time to recover. The black-armored general moved again, his strike swift as lightning. A blade hand cleaved down, slicing into Carl's shoulder. The sickening crack of shattered bone echoed in the night. Carl let out a muffled groan, collapsing onto one knee. Blood seeped into the earth beneath him. Night Owl gazed down at him, eyes filled with cold amusement. "Fool, you were never a match for me." Lifting his hand, he gathered a vortex of dark soul energy into his palm. The swirling force condensed into a pitch-black spear, its deadly tip aimed at Carl's chest. Die. Time seemed to freeze. The air grew suffocating with murderous intent. Alya's heart pounded wildly, her breath caught in her throat. She watched in horror as the spear shot forward, aimed straight at Carl's heart. Rage, despair, pain, every emotion ignited at once, setting fire to her very soul. The Nether Phantom Dragon roared within her. A violent eruption of spectral blue soul fire burst forth from her body, consuming the battlefield in its furious wake. A tidal wave of soul energy surged outward, forcing soldiers to stumble back in fear. "Stop!" Alya's cry ripped through the air as the spectral form of the Nether Phantom Dragon coiled above her, its presence sending a ripple of dread through the ranks of the black-armored legion. Night Owl narrowed his eyes. And then he smiled. "Oh?" His voice was laced with intrigue. "So, you finally awakened." Alya's eyes were no longer her own. They burned with ghostly blue flames, her forehead marked by a faint glowing sigil. Her voice was low and chilling, carrying the weight of death itself. "Touch him." She stepped forward, the very ground cracking beneath her feet. "And you die." The storm had arrived. The battlefield trembled beneath its fury, and Alya's destiny was about to plunge into an abyss of the unknown. The night wind over the wilderness was sharp as a blade, carrying the stench of blood as it swirled through the battlefield, refusing to disperse. One by one, the mercenaries fell. Those who had once fought beside her, laughed with her, shared their meager rations, now lay silent, lifeless bodies staining the darkened earth. Alya knelt on the ground, fists clenched so tightly that her nails dug into her palms, drawing blood that trickled between her fingers. Her heart felt as though it had been torn apart, an unbearable agony constricting her chest, threatening to suffocate her. What does my existence even mean? She had once believed that as long as she fought with everything she had, she could protect those around her. But reality had mercilessly mocked her naivety. No matter how hard she struggled, fate was like an invisible hand, shoving her deeper into an abyss, forcing her to watch helplessly as those beside her perished, while she remained powerless. The dying cries of the mercenaries echoed in her mind. "Go, protect Alya." They had given their lives to buy her time. But why? Her shoulders trembled. Tears blurred her vision. She hated herself, hated her own weakness, hated that she had become the source of everyone's suffering. If my existence only brings death, then why should I keep living? Her voice was raw, almost a scream, directed at Vivian. But the fury in her words was not truly meant for Vivian. It was a protest against the absurd cruelty of fate. She needed an answer, something to free her from this torment. Yet Vivian's expression remained serene, as deep and unreadable as the sea, as if she had expected Alya's outburst all along. "Because your mission is not yet complete." Alya froze, her breath catching, as though a cold hand had clenched around her heart. "Mission," she echoed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "You expect me to stand by and watch as they die for me? To keep running, just for some ridiculous mission?" Her chest rose and fell violently, emotions flaring into an uncontrollable wildfire, rage, grief, helplessness, She was done. Done listening to talk of fate, destiny, and preordained paths. None of it mattered. The people who had sacrificed themselves for her, they were gone. And it was because of her. Vivian stepped closer, her voice calm, yet carrying an undeniable weight. Do you really think this is your fault? Alya's pupils contracted slightly. Her nails pressed harder into her palms, nearly piercing the flesh. The black-armored legion was never after just you. Vivian continued, her words cutting through the darkness like a blade. Their true target is the Nether Phantom Dragon inside you, the remnant power of the undead royal bloodline. If it wasn't you, it would have been someone else. Even if you die today, they will simply hunt down the next target tomorrow. You are a piece on the board, yes, but not a piece meant to passively await destruction. You are the piece that can change the game. Alya stared at her, lips trembling. Change the game, she whispered. If you don't want anyone else to die for you, then fight to change everything. Vivian's voice was steady, unwavering. Power alone does not dictate fate. What dictates fate is the one who wields it. Alya's breath came in short, uneven gasps. Memories flooded her mind, fragments of the past piecing together. The dream that had haunted her since childhood, where the Nether Phantom Dragon coiled within the abyss, its voice deep and commanding, speaking words she hadn't understood back then. But now, she could almost grasp their meaning. Victor, the mercenary leader, placing a firm hand on her shoulder, saying, "No matter what your past holds, Alya, we believe in you." Carl, standing in front of her, shielding her without hesitation. Your fate is your own, no one else's. Something inside her tightened, pulling her from the depths of her despair. Struggle, confusion, anger, sorrow, all of it churned together, culminating into an indescribable force. Had she only brought death? No, that wasn't true. Her comrades had not died because of her. They had died believing in her, believing she had the power to change everything. Their lives had not been thrown away in vain. Their sacrifice must not be for nothing. Alya took a slow, deep breath. And then she stood. Her body trembled, but not from fear, from rage, from resolve. I won't run anymore. Her voice no longer wavered. It rang clear in the death-stained air, carrying a determination that had never been there before. Vivian studied her for a moment. Then, the faintest of smiles tugged at her lips. Alya turned, her gaze piercing through the darkness beyond. Her enemies still awaited her downfall, still expected her to crumble beneath the weight of her fate. But she was no longer the helpless girl she once was. Even if I bear the curse of the undead royal bloodline, I will stand my ground against the black-armored legion and protect my comrades. In her eyes, a deep blue soul flame ignited. The Nether Phantom Dragon's presence stirred, a low, resonating growl echoing from the depths of her consciousness. A new power began to awaken, and, in the shadows, something shifted. Under the night's veil, the battlefield still carried the lingering warmth of dying embers, the air thick with the scent of blood. The mercenary banner lay in tatters, fallen among the corpses, soaked in the blood of warriors. Alya clenched, her fists tightly, her nails nearly digging into her palms as she forced herself not to look back. She knew there were still comrades who hadn't retreated, fighters laying down their lives to buy them time, including the mercenary captain himself. But she couldn't stop. She had to survive. She had to make sure their sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. Go. Now. Vivian's sharp command rang through the night as she led the way, guiding Alya and the wounded Carl through the darkness. The remaining mercenaries gritted their teeth, using every last ounce of strength to hold back the Black Armor Legion's relentless pursuit. Steel clashed against steel, Shadows fell one by one, yet none of them retreated. Alya glanced back just once and saw the mercenary captain still standing in the center of the battlefield. He was drenched in blood, his great sword slick with crimson, his legs trembling yet unyielding. He cleaved through an enemy soldier, then turned to Alya, flashing, a bloodied but warm smile. "Live." Alya felt something clog her throat. She wanted to call out to him, to warn him, but in the next moment, Night Owl's black blade pierced through the captain's chest. Blood splattered. The battlefield blurred before her eyes, all sound, fading into a deafening silence. Thump, thump, thump. Her heartbeat pounded like war drums. "No, Captain!" Her scream tore through the night, but the only response was the sight of him slowly collapsing. His fingers twitched, as if trying to grasp something, only to fall helplessly to the cold ground. The mercenary captain had fallen, in battle. To his final breath, he never took a step back. To his final breath, he still stood guard over his people. Alya's tears slipped down her face. Her nails dug so deep into her palms that fresh blood dripped from between her fingers. She wanted to rush back, but a strong hand seized her. "Alya, move!" Carl's voice was hoarse and urgent. His face was pale, his shoulder wound still bleeding, freely, yet he used every last ounce of strength to drag her forward. Alya struggled, but her body wouldn't obey. She knew Carl shouldn't even be exerting himself in his condition, yet he still held on to her without hesitation, forcing her to keep running. Vivian led the way, her soul magic flickering faintly in the dark, guiding their path forward. She never looked back, but her voice was unwavering, leaving no room for argument. "If you stop now, then their deaths truly will have been for nothing." Alya bit down hard, swallowing the sobs threatening to escape. Her vision was blurred by tears, but in the end, she turned away and ran into the darkness. The night was deep. The forest whispered with the low howl of the wind, the silence so profound it felt as though even time had halted. Alya carefully laid Carl down. His wound had been hastily bandaged, but his complexion remained ghastly pale, sweat beading along his brow. She knelt beside him, gazing at his face, her heart twisting with emotions too heavy to name. "Carl," she whispered, her voice hoarse. Carl cracked his eyes open with effort, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Don't cry. See? I'm not dead yet." Alya bit her lip, forcing back the tears welling in her eyes. He had been so close, just a step, away from sharing the captain's fate. If they had been any slower, he too would have fallen. Just another casualty left to rot under the Black Armor Legion's blades. Her fingers trembled slightly, an overwhelming sense of powerlessness washing over her. She once believed she was strong enough, but now, standing before the reality of war, witnessing the price of failure, she realized how small she truly was, how utterly incapable. Vivian leaned against a rock, silently observing them, her gaze deep and unreadable, lost in thought. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "This battle, what has it taught you?" Alya looked up at her, meeting her eyes. Gone was the hesitation, the doubt. Now her gaze burned with a different kind of fire. "I've learned that running solves nothing." Slowly she clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms, but she no longer felt the pain. "If I keep hiding, if I keep being afraid, then the captain, the mercenaries who died today, their sacrifices will truly have been for nothing." Her voice no longer wavered. It carried a determination stronger than ever before. "I will go to the ruins of the undead kingdom. I will uncover the true power of the Nether Phantom Dragon. I will put an end to all of this." Vivian studied her for a moment before her lips curled into the faintest of smiles. "Good. You finally understood." Carl let out a quiet chuckle, his voice weak but filled with warmth. Now that sounds like the Alya I know. Alya gently took Carl's hand, feeling the warmth still lingering in his skin, the proof that he was still alive, that he was still here. Her resolve solidified. She wouldn't let anyone else die for her. She would grow stronger. She would take control of her own fate. Lifting her gaze to the night sky, she saw the stars twinkling like distant souls watching over them. "Captain," she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "I promise. Your sacrifice will not be in vain." Far across the battlefield, Night Owl stood amidst the bodies of the fallen, his eyes fixed on the direction where Alya had disappeared. His black armor was soaked in blood, his sword still dripping with warmth. "Run, then," he murmured, voice low and laced with cruel amusement. "Go seek your answers." His gaze darkened, sharp and piercing, as if he could already see the path she would take, the struggles, the choices, the despair yet to come. A smirk tugged at his lips. But remember, fate's shackles aren't so easily broken. The night wind stirred his cloak, like a predator watching its prey vanish into the darkness. The hunt was far from over.